What business could you possibly have with my daughter? I can help her walk. Whitmore's jaw tightened. Security, remove this boy. Malik didn't move. You've had her in therapy for 4 years. She hasn't taken a single step. I know why. 2 nurses passing by slowed down. One of them, a woman in her late 40s with tired eyes, glanced from Malik to Whitmore with curiosity. Whitmore's voice became a blade. I don't know how you got her name, but you will not... Doctor, Malik interrupted gently. My grandmother was Rose Carter. The nurse's eyes widened. Whitmore blinked. Rose Carter, the quiet miracle worker in pediatric neurology who had retired a decade ago, had been a legend in these halls, known for seeing possibilities where others saw hopelessness. She's gone now, Malik continued, but she taught me everything she knew. Ava's problem isn't what you think it is. Whitmore laughed, but it sounded forced. You're a street kid. Don't pretend you know more than the best medical minds in this country. Malik finally stepped forward, his soaked sneakers squeaking against the floor. I'm not pretending, sir. I'm telling you, Ava doesn't have what you told the world she has. And deep down, you know that's true. The first thing people noticed about Malik Carter wasn't the ragged hoodie or the holes in his shoes. It was his eyes. They were the kind of eyes that didn't belong on a 12-year-old. Sharp, steady, and old. Eyes that looked like they'd seen too much and still refused to blink. On a bitter December afternoon, Malik stood at the entrance of St. Augustine Children's Hospital, dripping rainwater onto the marble floor. The security guard frowned but didn't move. Malik had that stillness about him, the kind that made you feel he was here for something important. He clutched a plastic bag under his arm like it was treasure. Inside was nothing but a worn notebook and a bundle of rubber bands. To him, though, it might as well have been gold. Before we dive into this life-changing story, hit that like button if you're ready to have your perspective completely shifted. And drop a comment below. Tell me what city you're watching from. You might be surprised to see who else from your area is tuning in right now. Dr. Leonard Whitmore appeared from the elevator just as Malik stepped forward. Whitmore was the hospital's chief pediatric neurologist and heir to one of the most powerful medical families in the country. His white coat was pristine, his shoes polished. He was the kind of man who didn't just walk into a room, he took ownership of it. Can I help you? Whitmore's tone suggested the opposite. Yes, sir, Malik said quietly. I'm here for Ava. Whitmore froze for a fraction of a second before covering it with a polite, cold smile. I don't believe we have an Ava on today's schedule. You do, Malik said, his voice gaining weight. Ava Whitmore, your daughter. The guard's hand instinctively went to his radio, but Whitmore raised a palm. Something flickered in Whitmore's expression, a flash of recognition or guilt, quickly smothered. Get him out of here, he snapped. The guard reached for Malik's shoulder, but before he could touch him, a small voice floated down the corridor. Daddy? They all turned. At the far end of the hall, a girl in a wheelchair was being pushed by a young nurse. Her hair was tied in 2 loose braids, and her eyes, pale and searching, locked instantly on Malik. Ava, Whitmore said tightly, stepping toward her. But Ava's gaze didn't leave Malik. Her lips parted, and in a voice hoarse from disuse, she whispered something Whitmore hadn't heard her say in over a year. Hi. Malik smiled softly. Hi, Ava. A nurse gasped. Ava's speech had regressed so badly that even one word was rare, but here she was, greeting a stranger. Enough, Whitmore barked, his composure cracking. He wheeled Ava toward the elevator. Let's go. Ava craned her neck as the doors closed, eyes never leaving Malik's. The silence in the lobby was heavy. Malik turned to the nurse with the tired eyes. She's not broken, he said quietly. She's waiting for the right key. The nurse swallowed hard. She had worked under Rose Carter years ago. She knew her methods were unconventional, but they had worked. Whitmore didn't come back down for another 30 minutes, but by then Malik was gone, a damp outline left where he'd been standing. That night, Whitmore sat in his office, unable to focus. He'd buried himself in charts and test results, yet Malik's words clung to him. She's waiting for the right key. It was nonsense. It had to be. Still, why had Ava reacted to him like that? He told himself it was coincidence, a fluke. But deep in the part of him he never let anyone see, he remembered the day of Ava's diagnosis and the quiet doubt he'd ignored ever since. The doubt that now had a name and a pair of unblinking eyes. By morning, Malik was back. Not inside. This time he sat on the cold stone steps outside the hospital, hood up, notebook in hand. Watching. Patients came and went. Doctors hurried past. Every so often, Malik would glance toward the glass doors, as if waiting for someone. From the second-floor window, Ava spotted him, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. The key no one looks for. The next morning, the hospital was buzzing with the usual orchestration of urgency and routine, the rush of stretchers, the sharp scent of disinfectant, the clipped voices of doctors making decisions that would change lives before lunch. Malik was still there, same spot on the cold stone steps, hood pulled low, notebook balanced on his knees. His pen moved quickly, sketching a strange combination of stick figures, diagrams, and odd symbols that made no sense to anyone who happened to glance over. He didn't look up when the nurse with the tired eyes, Nurse Kelly, stepped outside with a paper cup of coffee. "You're back," she said, more observation than question. "Guess so." Malik didn't stop writing. "Dr. Whitmore doesn't want you near his daughter." "Yeah," he made that pretty clear. He finished a line, tore the page from his notebook, and folded it carefully. Kelly crossed her arms. "Then why are you sitting here in the rain?" "I'm waiting." "For what?" He looked up at her, rain dripping from the edge of his hood. "For him to stop being a doctor for 5 seconds and start being a dad." Kelly was silent. The words landed harder than she wanted to admit. Inside, Ava had asked twice if she could go to the lobby that morning. Both times, Whitmore deflected. "Later. We have therapy first." Her physical therapist, a woman named Marin, worked methodically, moving Ava's legs through a series of exercises. Whitmore watched, arms folded, trying to ignore the way Ava kept glancing toward the window. Marin was gentle but firm. "You're doing well, Ava." Ava's voice was small. "I want to see him." Whitmore stiffened. "Who?" "The boy," she said simply. Whitmore exchanged a look with Marin, one of those silent, loaded exchanges adults have when they think a child isn't paying attention. But Ava's pale eyes didn't miss much. By noon, Kelly had quietly decided something. She walked outside with Malik's folded page in her pocket. "I'll let you in," she said in a low voice, "but only for 5 minutes. And if Whitmore sees you, you're on your own." Malik stood, slipping the notebook into his bag. "That's all I need." Kelly swiped him in through a staff entrance, leading him through a side hallway that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old paper. She stopped outside the physical therapy room. Through the glass, Malik saw Ava, her hair escaping from its braids, her small hands gripping the sides of her wheelchair. She looked tired, but her eyes lit up when she spotted him. Kelly opened the door just enough for Malik to step in. Marin looked up, startled. "It's okay," Kelly said quickly. "He's, observing." Marin hesitated but didn't object. Malik crouched beside Ava, his voice low. "Hi, Ava. I'm Malik." "I know," she said. "You came yesterday." "That's right. And I'm here because I think your legs know how to walk." She tilted her head. "They don't listen to me. Maybe they're waiting for the right song." Ava frowned. "Song?" "Not a real song," Malik explained. "A rhythm. Everyone has one. When you find it, your legs remember what they're for." Whitmore's voice cut into the room like a cold draft. "What is going on here?" Marin stood quickly. Kelly straightened, bracing for the fallout. Whitmore stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Ava, do you know this boy?" "Yes," she said simply. "He's my friend." Whitmore's gaze swung to Malik. "You have no right." I'm not here to hurt her, Malik interrupted. I just want 5 minutes. You've had more than enough. Malik stood his ground. Doctor, have you ever wondered if maybe you've been looking at the wrong part of the problem? Whitmore's nostrils flared. I've spent years looking at her legs, Malik finished softly, when the real problem is somewhere else. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights. Whitmore finally stepped back. Get out, now! Kelly touched Malik's arm lightly, a signal it was time to go. Malik obeyed, but not before slipping the folded page into Ava's hand. As Kelly led him out, Ava unfolded it. Inside was a simple sketch. 2 stick figures standing together, a dotted line between them, and beneath it, the words, "You and me. We'll find your song." That night, Whitmore found the paper on Ava's nightstand. He should have thrown it away. Instead, he stared at it far longer than he wanted to admit. Because the worst part wasn't that it was nonsense. The worst part was that it made him feel something he'd tried to bury years ago. Hope. First steps in secret. The next day, the rain was gone, replaced by a pale winter sun that painted long shadows across the hospital steps. Malik arrived early, same as always, notebook under his arm. But this time, Kelly was waiting for him. I can give you 10 minutes, she said without preamble. Whitmore's in a meeting upstairs. Malik's lips twitched into the faintest smile. That's 8 more than I need. Kelly smuggled him in through the laundry corridor, weaving between carts of crisp white sheets. The place smelled of starch and steam. When they reached the therapy room, Marin wasn't there, just Ava, sitting in her wheelchair, tracing circles on her lap with one finger. Her face lit up when Malik walked in. You came back. Of course, he said, dragging a chair in front of her. Ready to try something different? She nodded eagerly. Malik crouched beside her. We're going to play a game. I call it Follow the Beat. He pulled a small rubber band from his pocket and looped it between his fingers. Then he started tapping it against the arm of the chair in a slow, steady rhythm. Like this. Tap, tap, tap. Can you match it with your hands? Ava tried, her fingers fumbling at first, then finding the same beat. Good, Malik said. Now, here's the tricky part. Keep that beat in your hands, but let your feet listen to it. Ava looked down at her legs as though they were strangers. She started moving her toes, awkwardly at first, then more in sync with the tapping. Perfect, Malik said. Now I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, we're going to push with your right leg. Not to walk, just to tell it you're the boss. 1, 2, 3. Ava's right leg twitched, more than it ever had in therapy. Her eyes widened. I felt that. Exactly. Malik's voice was calm, but electric with quiet excitement. That's the door cracking open. Once it opens all the way, you walk through. The door opened suddenly, but it wasn't the metaphorical one Malik meant. Kelly's head whipped around as Marin stepped in, arms full of charts. Marin froze. What's going on? Kelly jumped in. Just a little coordination exercise. Marin narrowed her eyes. That's not on her therapy plan. It's not instead of therapy, Malik said quickly. It's... You shouldn't even be here, Marin interrupted. I'll have to tell Dr. Whitmore. Ava's small voice cut through the tension. Please don't. Marin glanced at Ava, then at Malik. Something in her expression softened, but only slightly. You have 5 minutes, she said finally, setting the charts down and leaving the door half closed. Malik turned back to Ava. We're going to try something else. This time, I'll walk backward. You follow with just 1 foot. He positioned himself in front of her, hands hovering near the wheelchair brakes. On my count. 1, 2, 3. Ava pressed her right foot into the floor, harder than before. The wheelchair shifted slightly. She gasped, not from pain, but from surprise. You see? Malik said. Your legs remember. We just have to wake them up. When Whitmore returned later that afternoon, he found Ava beaming in a way he hadn't seen in years. She wouldn't tell him why. That night, in the quiet of her room, she tapped the rubber band Malik had left behind. Slow, steady, certain. And somewhere deep inside, her legs listened. For the next 3 days, Malik kept showing up. Sometimes Kelly found a way to sneak him in. Sometimes Marin looked the other way, and sometimes he just sat outside, waiting for a glimpse of Ava through the therapy room window. Whitmore didn't notice at first. He was buried in rounds, research, and his usual tightrope walk of saving everyone else's child but his own. Then, during one of Ava's afternoon sessions, something caught his eye. Marin was guiding Ava through leg lifts when she tapped her fingers on the armrest. Tap, 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 with the kind of focus Whitmore hadn't seen in years. "What's that?" he asked. "Nothing," Ava said too quickly. Marin hesitated. "It's just something that helps her concentrate." Whitmore frowned. "I've never seen it in her plan." Ava avoided his gaze. "It's my rhythm." Whitmore studied her for a moment, the way he might study a puzzling X-ray. Something about the word rhythm stuck in his mind. Later that evening, as he reviewed patient charts in his office, Kelly appeared in the doorway. "You're missing dinner again," she said. "I'll eat later." She lingered. "She's getting stronger." "I know," he said, "but I don't understand why." Kelly's eyes flicked toward the window. "Maybe you don't need to understand why. Maybe you just need to let it happen." Whitmore looked up sharply. "What do you know?" "Only that sometimes help doesn't come from the people we expect." The next morning, Whitmore arrived early for Ava's session, earlier than Marin or Kelly. He turned the corner quietly, and what he saw stopped him cold. Ava was in her wheelchair, facing a boy in a hoodie. The boy was crouched in front of her, tapping a rubber band against the armrest. Her foot twitched in time with the beat. "Push, Ava," the boy said softly. "Right foot. That's it." Whitmore's voice cut through the air like a scalpel. "Step away from her." The boy looked up, dark eyes calm, unflinching. "Dr. Whitmore." "You're trespassing." "I'm helping." Whitmore stepped closer, his tone sharp. "You're interfering." The boy didn't move. "Then prove me wrong. Prove she's not better than she was last week." Silence pressed between them. Ava spoke first. "Dad, please. He's my friend." Whitmore's jaw tightened. "Ava." "No," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "When I work with him, I feel like my legs are listening." That word again, listening, the same one Malik had used days before. Whitmore hated how it got under his skin. He exhaled slowly, forcing the heat out of his voice. "You have 10 minutes, he said finally. "Then you leave. And if I see you here again without my permission..." "You'll throw me out," Malik finished. "Yeah, I figured." Whitmore turned to go, but lingered just long enough to hear Malik's next words to Ava. "Okay," Malik said quietly. "Let's find your song." By the end of the 10 minutes, Ava had moved her leg farther than Whitmore had seen in months. And he didn't know if that made him more relieved or more afraid. The uninvited teacher. Whitmore didn't like it, not the boy's presence, not his methods, and especially not the way Ava's eyes lit up when she saw him. But results had a way of making stubborn doctors hesitate. That hesitation didn't last long. 2 days later, Whitmore asked Malik to meet him in the cafeteria. It wasn't a request. Malik arrived with his hood down, his hands in his pockets, and that quiet, steady look Whitmore had already come to dislike. "I want to know exactly what you think you're doing," Whitmore said. Malik sat opposite him, unruffled. "I'm teaching her how to listen." "That's not an answer." "Yes, it is. You've been telling her legs to move. I'm letting her legs tell her how they want to move." Whitmore stared. "You have no medical training." "I have experience." "With what? Street games? This is a spinal recovery case, not a hobby." Malik's jaw worked for a moment before he spoke. "When I was 11, a truck hit me. I couldn't walk for almost a year. No insurance. No hospital like this. The only reason I walk now is because an old man at the shelter taught me the same way I'm teaching Ava. Whitmore's first instinct was skepticism, but there was something in Malik's voice, not pity, not pride, just truth worn thin by years, that made him pause. Even if that's true, Whitmore said, this isn't your place. I'm not asking for a place. I'm asking for time. They sat in silence for a long moment, the clink of cutlery and low hum of conversation filling the air. Whitmore finally said, 1 month. You work with Marin present. No more sneaking in. Malik's brow furrowed. Why the change? Because if you're going to meddle in my daughter's recovery, I'm going to see exactly how you do it. The first official session was tense. Malik stood on one side of Ava's wheelchair, Marin on the other, Whitmore watching from the corner. Okay, Ava, Malik said. Close your eyes. Forget I'm here. Forget your dad's here. Forget the walls, the chair, everything. Just hear this. He began tapping, slow and steady. Ava's lips moved silently, counting along. Now, Malik said, push your heel into the floor, not to move, just to claim it. Her leg pressed down, a clear, intentional motion. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. It wasn't a miracle, but it was undeniable progress. Later, outside the therapy room, Marin caught up with Whitmore. He's unconventional, but she responds to him. Whitmore didn't answer right away. He was watching Malik through the glass, the boy packing up his notebook. I still don't trust him, Whitmore said. Maybe you don't have to, Marin replied. You just have to trust her. That night, Whitmore found himself in Ava's room. She was asleep, the rubber band looped loosely around her fingers. Her foot twitched in her dreams, tapping out a beat. A week into the new arrangement, progress was undeniable. Ava's right leg could push firmly against the floor. Her left, stubborn, reluctant, had started to twitch in response to the rhythm. Even Whitmore had stopped pretending not to notice. Then it happened. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Malik had just started a new exercise, tiny side-to-side foot shifts, when Ava flinched. Ow, she whispered. Whitmore stepped forward instantly. Where? My hip, Ava said, her voice small. It feels like it's locking. Marin crouched beside her, palpating the joint. It's muscle spasm. Not unusual when you're waking up dormant muscles. But Whitmore's mind was already running worst-case scenarios. Stop the session. We'll get imaging. Hours later, the scans came back clear. No damage. But Whitmore had made up his mind. She needs rest, he told Malik outside her room. You're done for now. Malik's eyes flashed. If you stop now, you risk losing everything she's built. And if we keep going, and she tears something, we lose even more. The days without Malik were quiet. Too quiet. Ava did her standard therapy with Marin, but her eyes lacked that sharp spark. One evening, Whitmore found her holding the rubber band Malik had given her, tapping it weakly against the armrest. Why'd you send him away? She asked. Because I have to protect you. But you didn't ask me if I wanted protecting. The words landed heavier than Whitmore expected. 3 days later, Ava's left leg, the one that had been just beginning to respond, stopped moving altogether. Regression, Marin confirmed reluctantly. It happens. Whitmore sat alone in his office that night, staring at her charts. Numbers, graphs, notes, all trending backward. Finally, he picked up the phone. The next morning, Malik was back in the therapy room. No hoodie this time, just a plain t-shirt, his expression unreadable. We'll go slow, Whitmore said. The second she feels pain, you stop. Malik nodded. Deal. The session began with the simplest rhythm. Tap, tap, pause, tap. Ava's fingers followed, then her right foot, then hesitantly, her left. When her left leg finally shifted again, her face broke into a smile Whitmore hadn't seen since before the accident. By the time they finished, Whitmore realized something. He might not trust Malik, but Ava did. If this story changed how you see the world, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me about a time someone saw your worth when others didn't, or about a time you chose to see someone else's value when the world told you to look away. Subscribe for more stories that will challenge your assumptions, touch your heart, and remind you that the most powerful force in the universe isn't money or fame or success. It's love. It's courage. It's the decision to treat every person you meet as if they might be the hero of their own incredible story.